I bought a 100-year-old log house to turn into my dream home. In this video, I am uncovering the ceiling and the walls inside the house. This means ripping off wallpaper, more wallpaper, tar paper, linoleum, plywood, trims, and old wires. I discovered some of the secrets that the old house has been hiding. Some cute, others not so much, and some, well, deeply concerning, but more on that later. First, let's have a look how it looked like in the inside before removing the wallpaper. This is the kitchen. Some of the pantry is visible in the background here. Well, lots of different wallpaper as you can see already. This is the living room. I have been curious here and already removed some of the wallpaper to see that there was tar paper under it. Please someone tell me if that's the correct term. I have no idea, so correct me in the comments. And this is the bedroom. It's very small. Well, the whole house is small. It's about 45 square meters, which according to Google is less than 500 square feet. So let's get to work. I just love it when the wallpaper comes off in huge pieces like this. Not in every place, but this is due to the humidity. So the glue doesn't hold anymore. The house has been standing empty for at least 6 years before I bought it. The first surprise that I had here was that there was another layer of wallpaper under this tar paper. And there were old newspapers under the wallpaper, which were an interesting read, by the way. And this is how it looks like after I removed those layers, well, most of that. And the huge pile of garbage. It comes from both of the rooms. In the kitchen, I discovered that there was not tar paper, but plywood under the wallpaper layers. The plywood sheets were a bit harder to remove than the tar paper, and also I had to wait for an electrician to come and disconnect the electric wires so that I could remove the rest of the plywood. Now it was time for the bedroom, and you can see here are like several patches of different wallpaper, but I tell you, it's so satisfying when the wallpaper comes off. Basically the whole corner comes off as one big piece of wallpaper. I tried to count the layers of wallpaper, and it seemed to be 4 layers on top of the tar paper, and there was still 1 layer of wallpaper under it. So in total at least 5 layers of wallpaper. And as I mentioned, there were newspapers under the wallpaper, so I found some interesting cooking recipes from 1928 in the bedroom under the first layer of wallpaper. I found some news from 1940s and 1950s, also the 60s, so different decades were represented here. The linoleum was properly nailed on the walls and the floor, and it was quite difficult to remove. Here you can see that the linoleum had caused some mold to grow on the floor. It had trapped the moisture. And here's the not so unexpected surprise in an old log house. Well, there are holes like this in many places. This is just one of them. In 10 seconds you will hear the sound of the surprise that I had in this room. Well, one of the surprises, listen. This hissing sound turned out to be a bat that was hiding under the tar paper. So I paused the work and let the bat find a new hiding spot. Here's a closer look at the logs that I uncovered in the wall. The reddish tone is because of the clay that has been used to cover the cracks between the logs. For some reason, on this part of the wall there was a slab of plywood, and I'm about to discover here why is that. Yep, it's a door. So on the other side of this wall is the pantry, and it looks like previously the entrance to the pantry was on this side. Well, let's see if it works. Yes, it does. This is the wall separating the bedroom and the living room. And as you can see, I had quite a fun removing the wallpaper here. The wallpaper here did not want to come off so easily, so I'm going to remove this later on with the wall. And here we have the good old stubborn linoleum again. It doesn't want to get removed so easily. At least the wallpaper comes off in huge chunks. It's a big win for me. All of the ceilings throughout the house were covered with plywood, and the actual ceiling was about 20 centimeters higher. Here I'm trying to open up the ceiling in one part and see what's under it. I was really pleasantly surprised how the ceiling looked like. I really like the look of this dark wood, and it didn't look damaged at all. But the big gap between the plywood and the ceiling left the rodents a big place to run around and build their nests, which they had done. So removing these plywood sheets was a very dusty job. So this is how far I got, and for removing the rest of the plywood from the ceiling, I got help from a local workman. This is the kitchen ceiling before, this is the bedroom, and now this is the living room after. I think it looks really good. It just needs some cleaning up. And this is the kitchen. It has a black ceiling, which is typical for old Estonian houses. And the bedroom ceiling. There was a worrisome surprise in one corner of the bedroom ceiling. It was a fungus, which really scared me at first, and I had it analyzed in the lab. It turned out to be wet rot causing fungus, which is not as bad as I was afraid it would be, in case it would be dry rot. So I got lucky, and I don't have to use any chemicals to get rid of this. I just need to remove the damaged part, the mushroom itself, and keep the area dry. That's it. I know obviously it would have been better to remove the trims and cables and everything before the wallpaper, but this is just me being impatient. A lot of the cracks in the house were filled with plastic, and even full whole garbage bags were used for filling these cracks. And I found those garbage bags and used them as garbage bags. And finally, I got the electrician to disconnect the old wires, and I could remove them. I accidentally hit my camera a couple of times in this process. Now I'm at the final part of the wall in the bedroom, and this is the part of the house that had a fungus in the ceiling. And actually, as you can soon see, the wall doesn't look so good here either. It has some damage from the water that was leaking from the roof. As you can see here, the logs have some water damage and some visible mold on this wall. Just a final round of cleanup in the house, and then we can have a look at the result. In the kitchen wall here you can see that a couple of logs have already been replaced at some point. There was a small basement under the pantry, and this is the door that you saw from the other side earlier. And this is the living room after removing the wallpaper. And the ceiling that I like so much. Here is the bedroom. The logs have a strange color because the gaps between the logs are covered with clay, and the logs themselves are also a bit covered with this reddish clay. And here's the kitchen. The kitchen looks a bit different than the other rooms. The logs are darker, the ceiling is darker. And for some reason the floor is a bit more, or actually a lot more damaged than in the other rooms. Next, I'm hoping to get an expert opinion on the state of the house, and I will try to remove some of the clay that is between the logs. And to end the video, here is a drawing I found on one of the wallpaper layers. It seems to be made by a young artist. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.